So when we tell people you can make this an investment, not an expense, that's what we're talking about. You've made $2.1 million, and 40% of the funds that are producing that is the government's money that's been deferred. And so now you're doubling up.
Hey everybody, Brett Swarts here with Dan Palmer, Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We are here today to talk about the hidden cost of not using the deferred sales trust. You know, Dan, a lot of times people are like, hey, deferred sales trust seems kind of expensive, 1.5% to 2% on recurring fees, 1.5% upfront cost. And they're wrestling with, is there enough value to justify the expense? But I want to dive into the hidden cost of not doing this, right? And I think this really comes alive when we do these proposals of using the DST versus not using the DST. So let's preface this conversation with that, Dan. Does that sound like a pretty good conversation to have?
Yeah, and I've actually heard that a lot of times also, and it kind of makes me chuckle internally when I hear it, because I'm like, you're already, by using the deferred sales trust, you're going to have 25 to 40% more proceeds working in your favor within the trust. So regardless of the cost, just right off the bat, you already have 25 to 40%, depending on what state you're in, more working in your favor. So it's already a win from the jump. And then all the other ways that it becomes a benefit also, like, the different investment vehicles that we have and whatnot.
100%. I think Russell Brunson says it really well. Like, if it only did this, if it only helped you defer an extra 20 to 50% of your proceeds, right? If it only gave you some income tax deferral, if it only gave you the ability to diversify, if it only gave you some liquidity, if it only gave you the ability to pay off debt, and you just keep stacking these things, get new depreciation schedules. The one I want to talk about today that I think is the most powerful one for the purpose-driven entrepreneur, that's who we serve, is this the ability to defer income tax and to throttle. And, throttle meaning speed up, or throttle down to slow down that income tax. Think of it like a water faucet where you can turn it on and turn it off. And this is for the 1.0 version, which we use about 98% of the time. And the hidden cost is the opportunity to defer income tax, which is the most expensive tax we're ever going to pay, is income tax. And so to the extent that you can defer it and compound your most expensive tax is kind of magical. I mean, it really unlocks the power of compounding interest in your favor. So let's walk through that, Dan. Let's hear from you. How does the deferred sales trust defer income tax, not just capital gains tax? And what does that look like on an average 10-year term? Let's use a $10 million sale. Let's use, zero debt, zero basis. Let's say they're in California or New York, and they're going to defer $4 million of tax, right? And let's put an interest rate of 9% on the note. How would it work, Dan?
Let's just use 10% because then it makes the numbers. Okay. I don't have a calculator on me.
Okay, cool. 10 works.
So a couple things, first of all, first return on investment is how I like to see it, talk about it. You're going to have 25 to 45 or maybe more.
Let's use 40%. Let's use 40% because that's, state, federal, Obamacare, depreciation recaptures. Let's, 6 million versus,
federal, 3.8% Obamacare, 13.3% California.
Yeah.
So you're going to be right around 40%. So you already have 4 million more in the trust. So a $10 million sale, 40% of 10 million is 4 million. So that's just gone, being spent on all the stuff Doge revealed to us a little while ago, ridiculous stuff. Or that 4 million stays with you. And at 10%, that 4 million alone, separate it from the 6 million that you're going to keep. But the 4 million is going to kick off $400,000 a year at 10%. That is compounding and growing in your favor. Even though it's the government's money, it's still the government's money within the trust. You still owe it, but it's compounding and growing in your favor. So that's the first big one. The second return on investment, though, is that you can defer the growth, the income tax, interest income tax can be deferred as well. And so say you go in, it's a $10 million sale, you defer the capital gains tax. So instead of having 6 million, 10 million hits the trust. And you say, I don't want any payments for year one, Brett. No payments at all. I'm just going to let it build. Well, at 10%, it's going to produce another million. So now you're 1 year in, and your 10 million has grown to 11 million within the trust. You still haven't taken a payment. You say, hey, year 2, I'm not going to take a payment again. That now that 11 million turns into 1.1 million. So now you're at 12.1 million after 2 years within the trust. And so when we tell people you can make this an investment, not an expense, that's what we're talking about. You've made $2.1 million, and 40% of the funds that are producing that is the government's money that's been deferred. And so now you're doubling up on the benefit within the trust.
I love this. I love this. I love this. Yes, I'm going to say it one more. I'm going to say it one more time so everyone caught this, and then I'm going to actually share my screen, and we're going to walk through live right now what we're talking about. And this is what we do here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We want to show you clearly the numbers, because it's one thing for us to say it, one thing for you actually look at the math, and the math is really clear. And so again, 10 million you sales price, zero basis. You would have paid 4 million of tax. So you can have 6 million, or you could have 10 million working for you in the trust. Okay. Now, when that 10 million is invested, here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, we cash flow our fees. We wait about 60 days. Let's just say we're making on average 10%, right? 10%, right? So that's $1 million of cash flow. Now we have other investments that make more than that, but this is just a general number, right? And so $1 million of cash flow, and our fees, 1.5% to 2%. So, but it's called 1.5 to 2. So let's even say it makes $800,000 net of fees. Just that would be simple, right? So $800,000 of cash flow. That $800,000 or that million, depending on what we write the note at, is deferred to the extent that you don't take a payment back. Okay. Now, so make it really, really clear. Do you pay any tax if you receive $0 in a given year? The answer is, on that sale, no, you pay no tax. Does the trust pay any tax if it makes all of that $1 million in a given year? No, because it can offset that tax by expensing it on its tax return. It's like a C Corp. It actually files a C Corp tax return. Most people get this confused. Okay. They go, oh, it must be getting taxed somewhere. Well, it could if we out earned the interest on the note, but typically, and the fees with the trustee fees, but typically the trust does not pay any tax. Okay. So Brett, you put 10 million in, it made $1 million, and it didn't pay me any of the million, and it expensed it, and it didn't pay on its tax return. Yes. So there's no tax. We had a question yesterday. One of the potential clients was asking, well, what if I put it all into like Apple stock and Apple goes to zero? First of all, we'll make sure we diversify, but let's imagine that did happen. Do I still owe the tax? No, the answer is no. Well, what tax do you have if you gotten zero back? The answer is zero, right? So he's like, oh, okay, that helps him to relieve some of the risk, because he thought, no matter what, I always owe this tax, no matter what happens with these investments. And so that relieves the stress of that. So let me share my screen here, okay, and then we'll bring this to life for everybody. And then I'll have Dan kind of walk through it one time, and then I'll do the same thing, because I think it's nice to hear it from both voices here. All right, Dan, can you see the screen okay?
Not really.
Okay, and if you can't,
yeah, I can see. If I put my glasses on, I can see.
All right, I can zoom in a little bit too. I just want to make sure that everyone else can see this. Okay, so Dan, these are some of the assumptions. Why don't you read the assumptions, and then we'll walk through it slowly. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, these assumptions are exactly what we've talked about earlier on this call. Sales price $10 million, adjusted basis 0, which means it's 100% gain. No debt. So the full 10 million is going to be capital gain, and it's also going to go into the trust. Properties in California. So with 20% federal, 3.8 Obamacare, 13.3% California state capital gains tax, we're looking at about 40%. So 40% of 10 million is the 4 million tax on gain. All 10 million are going to enter into the deferred sales trust. We'll
pause. This side is no DST. So this is if they just paid the tax. We'll go to the other side in a second.
We're not. This is the fact pattern up here on the left.
Yeah.
We haven't got into no DST or DST yet. These are just the facts. So go back up there. So 10 million into the DST, or it's going to be 6 million if you don't use DST, of course. But we're shooting for a 12% investment earnings, because that'll be 10% net of all fees.
Yes.
So fees are about 1.5% to 2% on an annual recurring basis. So we're looking at 10%. And so what we're going to show you here on the left side, what Brett's scrolling to now, is what would happen if you didn't use the DST. You just paid the tax, you got 12% earnings. We're assuming you're not going to take any payments for 2 years and then take $250,000 a year. And then on the right, you're going to see what the balance of your wealth is. So starting here with wealth that could be in the trust, it's $10 million, but then it gets taxed, $4 million. All right, so $6 million is left. $6 million times 12% is $720,000. So that's what that line is. You're earning that. That's interest earning. So you're going to pay. We have the highest income tax level there because most of our
and actually it might be 45, like depending on their other income they have, and to be. But we're just trying to use a general 35%. This could be a little different from what state you reside in, different things, but 35 is just a general rate. A little caveat to this too. You could put it into a stock that doesn't have dividends, or you could put it into real estate that could offset. So this is just a general rule of thumb. If it earns about 12% and it's earning it, therefore there's going to be tax. There's no choice on it because it's not in a deferral mechanism. Keep going, Dan.
Yeah, and then amount of earnings spent, and the reason we have the earnings, the tax on earnings, and the amount of earnings spent is we're trying to do an apples to apples comparison. So when we get to the other side with the DST, we're going to keep these numbers exactly the same so that you can track the growth of the funds on each side. So if you follow that line all the way across, 10 million, you pay 4 million in tax, you get 12% on the 6 million that's remaining, you pay the 35% income tax on that interest that you receive, you spend none of it. At the end of 1 year, you end up with 6,468,000. And then it's just going to go through the same exact pattern. That 6 million goes over to the left side there in year 2. That's our starting point. 12% is 776,000. You pay your tax on it. Even in year 2, you don't take anything. And so you end up after year 2, 6,972,000. Carry that over, and now the fact pattern is going to change a little bit because in year 3, we're taking $250,000 and spending it. But everything else is the same, and you see how it goes up. And then if you scroll down 15 years, it's all the same, you end up with $13 million if you follow that fact pattern out. 12%, you paid the tax. Year 3, you take $250,000, and you save the rest, and Perfect. It's invested. You end up Perfect. With $13 million.
Now let's move over to the right side, everybody. And again, this also one other thing to point out, there's been no legal fee. There's no trustee fee, right? This is just simply, paying your tax and not having any fees. Now let's move over to this side, Dan, and you can start maybe with the one-time legal fee.
Yeah, so this side is what would happen if you use the DST, and it's going to be apples to apples in terms of all the investment details and the spending. But on this side, we're going to add all the fees in so that you get a perfect view of what happens.
And by the way, this is actually 127,500. I'm just updating that because it's 1.5% on the first million, 1.25 on the 9 million. So go ahead, Dan.
Yep. So yeah, it's 1.25 on anything above $1 million, 1.5% on the first million. So I like to take the 9 million and times it by 1.25%, and then I just add 15,000. If you do that on your calculator, folks, you'll reach 127,500. So that's a fee that's going to come off the 10 million. So scroll down. So you scroll down and you see we're not starting with 10 million. We're starting with 10 million minus that legal fee. So even that's included in this chart. So you're getting a perfect view of the benefit of the deferred sales trust. So, but you have that additional 4 million in there. You would have had to pay that on tax. So at 12%, instead of getting 720,000 on the other side on 6 million, you have 12% of 10 million minus the legal fee. That's 1,184,700. So you already see the benefit right here in year one. That's a huge jump in income. Now you have the trustee and investments
Yeah,
fee.
and let me just stop for a second here as we stop sharing the screen. So we're going to walk through the last piece of this, of the compounding effect, and then we're also going to point out the income tax deferral. That's so powerful. But you want to keep in mind, what is the opportunity cost? Like, how do we make the DST an investment and not an expense, right? Part of that is cash flowing our fees. Part of that is obviously deferring that $4 million up front. Part of that is finding out a way to defer along the way, because it's not just the one-time deferral of cap gains, it's the continual deferral on what you don't receive in a given year. And so I'm going to come back and share the screen so Dan can finish this out, and then we'll wrap it up here. So all right, Dan, so here we are. You're at 9.872.
Yep.
Keep
12%. And then here's the one, we're using 2% here, actually. It assumes 1.5 to 2%, but we're taking the highest fee right here just so that you get, the most honest view of what's going on. So you subtract that from the annual earnings, and it's right here. This is earning net of fees. So go back 1 second, Brett.
Yeah.
So this is 12%. You minus the 2%. This is 10%. So this is 10% net of fees, or 12% overall. Just like the other side, you take no gross payout. All right. So there's no tax, because on the other side, you took the interest, you captured it. So you got to pay the income tax on it, regardless of whether you spent that money or not. On this side, you're not spending it. So all of the income tax is also deferred on that interest you receive, which is super powerful. That's what Brett was just talking about. So zero tax on that. Ending wealth balance is 10,859,000.
Yeah, let me pause right there. This is the key piece. This 987 is 100% deferred to you, because why? The gross payout was zero, and the trust is able to expense it even though it earned it. Keep going, Dan.
Yeah, so that's the year one fact pattern, and if you're good with numbers, you can already see what's about to happen. Your wealth is about to explode because of the power of the deferred sales trust. So here, year two, you're at 10,859,000. That's just carried over from the end of year one. 12%, 1.3 million basically. You take the 2% off, and you're left with the 10%, 1,085,000. You're not taking any payments again. So no tax there again. It's just compounding and growing. So at the end of year two, you have 11,945,000. At the beginning of this conversation, I was talking about this, and this is exactly what I was talking about. You don't take anything year one, you're almost at 11 million. You don't take it year two, you're almost at 12 million. And we go into year three. Here's year three. So you carry that over. 12%, everything's the same all the way across, so that you can understand. 12%, you take the 2% in trustee and investment fees, you get the 10% number, you take $250,000 to spend. Now that you've received it, you owe the income tax on that interest income you've taken. So within the trust, it's tax deferred until you take it. But here you're taking $250,000 in year three, so you have to pay that 35% income tax. And 12,890,000 is what's left. And so I think Perfect. You guys understand how it works. Brett, just scroll down so they can see what happens, and then show them the difference. $35 million if you use the deferred sales trust, versus, it's on the other side, versus 13 million if you don't use it, the trust. So when we talk about the opportunity cost that you lose if you don't use the deferred sales trust, I mean, that is, what is that? Difference of $21 million. Wow. It's almost triple.
$21 million, right? So that is the power of the income tax deferral. And that's just one. If we only give you that, is it worth the 1.5 to 2% on every single year, right? Yes, it's $21 million, right? I mean, hopefully that's yes.
Hey,
For
Brett,
everyone who's
it's hard. It's hard for me when I'm on the calls because they go, "Ooh, that sounds expensive," but it's because they don't know the numbers. And inside, I'm just like, "How do you think that's expensive? If you could only see what you're gonna, save and earn and grow if you use the deferred sales trust, you would never think that 1.5 to 2% was expensive. You would
Yep.
never.
And so here's one thing I want to point out too. You can adjust the payout. It doesn't have to be 250 a year. It could be 450 a year. It could be 750 a year. It could be, it could be a mix. It could be $1 million a year. It's adjustable for the 1.0 version, which is 98% of the deals that we do. It's adjustable, right? And certain years you might need or want a higher income because you have lower income over here, and the note can be amended. Trustee approves it. I have to approve it. With the amendment, we can do it, and then vice versa. Other years you might have high income and you want to turn it down a bit, and it could be amended with your approval as the note holder and my approval as the trustee. We work together to make this thing an investment and not an expense. And then what happens at the end of the 10 years? At the end of the 10 years, you can renew the note, and any of the accrued interest that hasn't been paid is the new note balance that we start with. Okay. Really important to understand that, right? It's not as if you have to, some CPAs go, well, you have to pay the tax someday. Well, someday might be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, pass it to your kids, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years, pass it to their kids, and just keep going. And so the answer is yes, someday if you ever take the interest or the principal, but the principal is not forced out. Okay. It's not like a required minimum distribution per se, like an IRA. Very flexible. Now here's the big strategy. Most clients working with us, we determine their truly passive income number. We dial that in. We look at tax flow, cash flow, debt flow, get with their CPA, build a fractional family office, build in the best real estate, securities advisors, tax professionals, and we build this dream team to help you compound and steward the wealth. If you want to learn more, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, or maybe you already have and you want to take the next step in your journey to building a capital gains tax exit plan. Don't delay. Get started today. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, reach out to Dan or myself, and we are happy to walk you through these numbers for your particular situation. We are way out of time. I'm Brett Swarts. He's Dan Palmer. Appreciate you watching or listening today. Please also share this with someone. It can make a huge impact. These do need to be set up before the close of escrow, okay? Second, we can do it for Bitcoin, businesses, or real estate. Third, one exception, if you're doing a 1031 exchange and you work with us, we can save a failed 1031 exchange. But please, start early, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We appreciate everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.